guys, and welcome to my show. Today we're making Turkish lentil soup. Now I love this soup because it's very neutral and the soup is all about the toppings. So later on I'll show you how to jazz it up. We like to garnish it with chickpeas and Kalamata olives, croutons, sumac, and a little bit of chili flakes and a squeeze of lemon juice. This is fabulous, especially on an overcast day. When it's chilly outside, I love having lentil soup. And it's super fun, and it gets the family excited because they love to top it off with whatever they like. So let's get started. First things first, we're gonna take some lentils. These are my orange lentils. I use these for dal too. So this soup is a little different than Indian lentils because I'm not gonna add cumin to the soup, and I'm adding very little garlic. Another alteration is we are using some vegetable stock. So this will taste soupish, not like a dal. Okay, so I have soaked 1 cup of these lentils in water, drained the water this morning, rinsed it out several times. And the first thing I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put it in my pressure cooker. So in it goes. If you haven't had this soup, you're really in for a surprise. This is fantastic. And the best thing about it is this whole meal is plant-based. Yay! We are gonna use some extra virgin olive oil as our fat source, and this is absolutely delicious. You have to give it a try. Okay, in go my lentils. Okay, to my lentils, I'm gonna go ahead and add 5 cups of water. So here's my kettle. I've had this water on boil for a few minutes, so it's really hot. I'm gonna take out 5 cups. Seems like a lot, it's actually not. Great. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna turn my stove on. I'm gonna let this come to a boil. And what I'm gonna do is, in a few minutes, you're gonna see this white, sappy film at the top of my pot. Those are the bitters from the lentils. I'm gonna use my little ladle here, and I'm gonna scoop it all off. So if you don't scoop up that foamy stuff, it can make your soup bitter. And I have done it before without doing it, and it just makes the taste a little bit more bitter. So definitely don't omit this step. Very important. So we're gonna let this come to a boil. In the meantime, I am gonna add half a teaspoon of salt. Just half a teaspoon, because we're actually gonna use vegetable broth, which already has some sodium. So don't overdo the salt. So just half a teaspoon of salt. There it is. Great. And that's it. So we're gonna wait, let this come to a boil. I'll show you how I remove that. In the meantime, we are gonna get our tempering going. So what is a tempering? A tempering is when you cook carrots, onions, sometimes celery, garlic, ginger in oil or in some type of fat source. I'm using extra virgin olive oil because I want to make this dish vegan, but you can use any fat source that you want. And this is going to help the flavors of the onions and the carrots really shine through in my soup. So I have 1 sweet onion. Here it is, it's chopped up. I've got 1 yellow carrot. This is my yellow carrot. I've peeled it and kind of diced it as small as I can. And I'm using 2 small cloves of garlic. So just a little bit of garlic, so it adds a little bit of flavor, but I don't want this to overpower my dish. Okay, and then finally, we're gonna use a little bit of Aleppo pepper. And Aleppo pepper is cayenne pepper. Here it is, it's like a powdered form. Some of it is kind of coarse, but it's not as hot as like red chilies. So I'm gonna use about half a teaspoon of this. Really good flavor. Okay, so, all right, so I have my heat on medium-low. I'm using my extra virgin olive oil. I'm gonna add 3 tablespoons. In it goes. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. And I'm gonna wait for that to get a little bit, actually it's good to go. Okay, take a look at this pot here. You can kind of see that white sap at the top. I'm still gonna wait for it to get thicker and thicker. Another 3 to 4 minutes, and then we will scoop all that out because that will contribute to some bitterness. And I don't like bitter in my food. Okay, so to my olive oil, I'm gonna go ahead and add these onions. And notice this is not sizzling right at me. This is the perfect temperature because I want to cook these onions down. There they are. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cover this up and let this cook for maybe 3 to 4 minutes. Okay, it's been about 3 minutes. I'm going to take my lid off. We'll see these onions starting to cook. So that is what you want to see. It can get a little bit hotter after the initial putting of onions, but you don't want that oil to be boiling right from the get-go. So it's getting hotter, looks good. Give it a little stir. Wonderful. These are cooking down nicely. Okay, to this I'm going to add my carrots and my garlic. 1 carrot peeled and diced, here it is. Remember, this is a white carrot. Use an orange carrot if you have that. I only have this and a purple one, so I chose the yellow carrot. There it is. Great, in it goes. Okay, in goes our 2 cloves of garlic. These are small garlic cloves. Okay, give it a little mix. Wonderful. Put my lid back on. Another 3 to 4 minutes. Great. Okay. Now, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start taking some of that sap out. Or I'm going to take some of that foam out. So you saw earlier all that foam. So here it is. You can take a look. It's kind of settling to the edges of my soup pot right here. If you turn the heat on higher, you can probably see it a little bit better. So there it is. There's the foam. Keep the heat on high. It will be easier to get it out. Okay, so I'm just going to take, there it is. Take my ladle. You will take out a lot of water too, totally fine. Just be careful when you're doing it so you don't take out lentils. There we go. Great. And if you have a hard time getting this out, you can also add half to 1 more cup of boiling hot water, just so there's enough water for you to easily scoop that out and you're not getting lentils out. I'm fine doing it this way. Use whatever way you'd like. Definitely take it out. Okay, if you take a look, I don't see any sap currently. Looks good to me. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so now is a good time for me to turn my lentils off. This is wonderful. Done. I'm going to turn it off. We're good to go. Check on my pot here. Looks good. Okay, I'm going to let this cook for another 2 minutes and then we're done. And we're going to go ahead and then add this in to our lentils. And we're going to pressure cook this for about 4 whistles. And then we're going to add our tomato puree and our vegetable stock. And then we're done. Okay, one ingredient that I forgot to add to this is our Aleppo pepper. So now's the time you want to add this. Only 1 seasoning. Here it is. Now's the great, if you take a look at my pot here, you'll notice that the oil is starting to separate. So this is when you want to add it. This tells me that the onions have cooked down. Same with the carrots. Perfect time to add your Aleppo pepper. I'm only adding half a teaspoon. You can add more if you want it. Start with half a teaspoon. You can garnish your bowl with more later. That way, if any of your guests can't tolerate some heat, you're good to go. So there's my half a teaspoon. In it goes. Okay. Now the Aleppo pepper I like, I get it online on Amazon. It's called the Spice Way. This is the brand I love. It's great. Okay, so I'm gonna give this a stir. Also adds a wonderful color. Okay, 1 more minute. Okay, now you can make this in an Instapot also. I don't have an Instapot, I just use pressure cookers. Easier for me, but this totally works in an Instapot. You're just gonna have to tweak the recipe. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and take my pressure cooker, just turn it around. Okay, so turn my stove off. I'm gonna take an oven mitt, take this, and I'm gonna add it to my lentils. So in it goes, in my lentils. Now, if you were to add your carrots and your onions just directly uncooked, your soup won't have as much flavor. The tempering adds a wonderful flavor to the soup, and I would definitely not omit this step. You need to do it. Great, I'm gonna give this a stir. Okay, so you can take a look here. Here's my onions and my carrots. Give it a mix. That looks fantastic. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead take my lid of my pressure cooker, put it on 4 whistles. After 4 whistles, this should be nice and thick. I'm gonna give it a stir, add my final 2 ingredients, and we're done. Thanks for joining me. All right, so our 4 whistles have happened and our pressure cooker has cooled. And how do I know it's cooled? I can't hear any noise at all. So I'm listening. There's definitely no steam in here. And it's been like this for about maybe 5 full minutes now. So use your judgment. Make sure you know how to operate one. So I'm gonna take my little Kleenex here, take this little whistle off. Great. And this is not hot. Totally fine. Okay, I'm gonna take the lid off now. And when you're taking the lid off, you notice it's so easy for me to take it off. If there's any resistance, just wait. That means it's too soon. So there it is. I'm going to take my ladle, give it a mix. Perfect. Okay, and now what I'm going to do to this is, now is the right time for me to add I'm going to add a spoon of turmeric. So here's my turmeric. So I add the turmeric now because when it's under a steam and pressure, in case anything comes out, I don't want it coming out on my tabletop or my counter. So now is the time to add your turmeric because you're not going to give it any more pressure. So a full teaspoon of turmeric, in it goes. Turmeric does not need to be cooked. You can add it directly to soups and stews. Give it a mix. And turmeric is a root. It's really, really good for our immune system, especially right now. We want to do everything we can to keep our immune system in check. This is a really good way of using it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I am going to turn my soup on, and this is going to continue to boil. I still need this to cook down. Okay, to this I'm going to add half a cup of tomato puree. You're supposed to add 3 tablespoons of tomato paste. I don't have tomato paste, so the closest thing I have is tomato puree. So I'm going to go ahead and add probably a little under, less than half a cup. So this is half a cup. I'm going to probably add a little bit more than a quarter. I'm going to put it in here and just give it a mix. And this is going to help balance the flavors really, really well. Also, the tomato is going to add a really nice color to the soup. Great. Finally, I need some vegetable stock. So, I'm going to take, these are vegetable, like stock cubes. You have to use your judgment on this step. Now, if I look at my soup is definitely on the runnier side. This will thicken as it settles. So if it sits around, it'll continue to thicken. But I don't want to add too much water to this because I don't want it to be too runny. So I'm going to go ahead and take my broth cubes. I'm adding 2. And remember, this has salt in it too, just for some additional flavor, so it tastes more like a soup. And I'm probably going to add just 1 cup of water. Sometimes I add 2, but you have to use your judgment. So here's my water, and this is hot. So I'm going to add my stock cubes in here. This is my measurement. I'm going to put 1 cup just like that, and I'm going to add it in. Make sure you use hot water. Don't use cold water. There we go. I'm going to give it a stir. Wonderful. That looks really good. So I'm going to let this come to a boil for about 10 to 15 minutes. Let it come to a boil and then simmer it 10 to 15 minutes, and you're good to go. Perfect. So I want to give time for those broth cubes to die down and become contribute to really, really good flavor. They do have to dissolve, and they will dissolve, so they just need a little bit of time. So another 10 to 15 minutes once it comes to a boil, and if you take a look, it's starting to come to a boil right now. There it is. Wonderful. Looks great. So once I see this, I'm going to turn my heat down to a simmer. I'm just going to put my lid on, but I'm not closing it completely. I'm going to leave it like this, 10 to 15 minutes. And then we'll be back and we get to try it. Thanks! All right, welcome back. So our soup is done. Now as this soup sits for an hour or 2 hours, it will thicken. So don't worry about it being runny. It will thicken. So I'm taking my ladle. I'm going to go ahead and take some of it out for me. And all those onions and carrots, they've all kind of wilted down. They'll be super nice and soft. Great. Now, this is the fun part. So if you have family over or friends over, it's super fun when everybody gets to take all their own toppings and add them in. I love offering chickpeas as a protein source. So I'm going to go ahead and add some chickpeas for myself. Wonderful. Kalamata olives are another option. These are delicious. Add those in. If you can find them whole, definitely buy them whole. These are the ones I had. They taste better when they're pitted and they're fully intact, not sliced. Great. Next, I'm just going to add a little bit more of the Aleppo pepper. Great. Now, this is sumac. Sumac comes from a flower, and these are the berries from the flower. This is a Middle Eastern spice, super pungent, tart, lemony, wonderful on soups. I'm gonna add a pinch of this. Great. Finally, I'm gonna add a little bit of lemon. Great. And then I finish it off with some fresh extra virgin olive oil. So any EVOO that you love. I'm going to use the same one that I cooked with. Here it is. Just a splash. Great. And that's it. Welcome back. Thank you guys so much for watching the Turkish lentil soup. This is fully plant-based. Before I try it, I'd love it if you all could hit the subscribe button. It would be so fantastic for me and such a compliment. Thank you guys. Time for us to dig in. I added a little bit of parsley leaves to my lentil soup. Additional toppings can include croutons. My kids will love eating this with crouton. Adds a very nice texture. Okay, so this is so wonderful. Definitely make it as is. Try not to add too many spices to your tempering. You want it to be kind of neutral in flavor, and you want your toppings to add that nice extra bit of spice and zest and tang. This soup is fantastic. If your kids are going to school and you're looking for options when they come back for lunch, make my plant-based Turkish lentil soup. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you guys. Yay! Spice, super pungent, tart, lemony, wonderful on soup.